Thank you. Mr Wolf, 1 minute, please.
Thank you, Madam President. This particular motion was regarded as a view and an opportunity for nation states to have subsidiarity and power back to themselves about making decisions on GM products. You have just heard from a member of the Conservative Party saying this is a good reason. This is not the case. 50 clauses in this motion made sure that the nation states would have to be subject to the EU in all of those 50 clauses before they can make such decisions. This is not a choice of the Parliament. It was a choice of the Council and the Commission, once again showing a fraud of what this place and how much power it has. There was no debate on whether GMOs are good. There is no clear labelling regime to ensure that the people of Europe have the opportunity to choose the food that they want. There is no clear system to prevent cross-contamination. There is no clear opportunity for the people of Europe to say no to GM foods if they want it, or yes if they do.
Thank you. Mr Kelly, 1 minute, please. Mr Kelly?
Gill.
I beg your pardon. My apologies, but just to prepare Mr Kelly, you are next. Mr Gill, you have the floor for 1 minute, starting from now.
Thank you. The British press and many MEPs have reported that this vote was to give powers back to our government regarding GM crops. In fact, the report is misleadingly titled Possibility for the Member States to Restrict or Prohibit the Cultivation of GMOs. However, as is always the case with this place, nothing is as it seems. We actually voted on 52 amendments, not the legislation. 50 of the amendments were lumped together. Amendment 20, the only amendment giving any powers back, was drowned out by the dozens of other amendments, each reasserting EU supremacy over Britain. I therefore abstained.
Mr Coburn.
Thank you, Madam President. This was not a vote on whether or not Great Britain can or cannot grow GM crops. This was merely one amendment among 52 which allowed it. The rest did exactly the opposite. The EU still decides. The British Parliament, and only the British Parliament, should make decisions about GM crops. And furthermore, UKIP is opposed to the EU Seychelles Agreement for fishing access to the Mayotte waters, as we consider this to be neo-colonialist. The EU gives money to the Seychelles ruling class and takes away the waters of ordinary fishermen. All I can say is this Parliament professes one thing and does exactly the opposite, same as usual.
Mr Agnew, 1 minute.
On the face of it, this seemed an easy one for UKIP. Here was the opportunity to allow some power back to Member States, and we would have presumably voted in favour. But on a closer look at the thing, it was anything but. The Commission were going to be involved at every single stage, even to the extent more than they are now. So, reluctantly, we have had to abstain from this. Crucially, though, Amendment 20 should have been voted on its own, because that genuinely did give some power back to Member States, but that got subsumed in the rest of the thing and will have been effectively drowned out. It will be very interesting to see those Member States who decide not to cultivate these crops, whether they will ban their consumers from eating them, which all the constituents are imported. That will be a remarkable sight if people find they haven't got enough to eat because of this legislation.
Thank you. Mr Finch, 1 minute.
Madam President, we voted to abstain from this. I do apologise, I read the wrong line. We are always in favour of repatriation of powers. However, the problem is the amendments are, as always, contradictory. But the final problem is that, in truth, the TTIP agreement will render all of this talk redundant. Thank you.